Ties between Saudi Arabia and China appear to be strengthening, while the relationship with the United States continues to weaken. Saudi Arabia's cabinet recently approved a decision to join a cooperative organization led by China. This could be an important signal that they are choosing China as their main trading partner over the United States. Saudi Arabia is upset over President Joe Biden's refusal to treat Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman fairly. In particular, Saudi Arabia has begun doing business with China, which worries the US and could jeopardize its global power. This video reveals information about this situation. The secret organization called S started with 5 countries, including the People's Republic of China, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Russia, and Tajikistan. Later, more Central Asian states joined, and it renamed itself SCO, a military organization for political and economic collaboration. Since then, most of the other Central Asian states, Pakistan and India, have also joined. SCO has almost 50% of the world's population as members, observers, or trading partners, and approximately controls 30% of the world's economy. That is 40% of the purchasing power of the entire planet. The G7, which are the 7 most powerful and industrialized countries in the world, in theory, is much smaller than this new China-led group, accounting for only about 27% of the global economy. In simple terms, SCO is a group of countries led by China that represents 40% of the global economy. Saudi Arabia recently joined China's group and is now beginning to conduct frequent military exercises in conjunction with the other allied countries. It is interesting to see how Saudi Arabia is becoming militarily involved in this rapprochement with China, something that is beginning to worry the US government. Saudi Arabia is the world's largest crude oil exporter and is betting heavily on the Chinese market. Saudi Aramco, the world's largest oil company and the most valuable company on the planet, has decided to start welcoming Chinese investors. China is increasing its influence in the Middle East by trying to make a diplomatic rapprochement between Saudi Arabia and Iran. The fact that Saudi Arabia has joined China could worsen the situation between China and the United States. Oil giant Saudi Aramco is strengthening its presence in East Asia. This week, the company announced 2 major refining and petrochemical deals in China, which not only give it a share of the Chinese market, but also additional daily sales of 690,000 barrels of oil. Saudi Arabia is betting on continued growth in Chinese demand. On the other hand, the kingdom is also looking to increase its market share in the world's leading oil importer, where its partner Russia has gained an additional share. This has come in the wake of geopolitical conflicts in Eastern Europe. It is folly to consider that Saudi Arabia is ceasing to be an ally of the United States. In fact, it is now betting on closer ties with China. Let's face it, the fight for oil market share has become more contested since the geopolitical conflict in Ukraine began. That's why China is trying to influence and stick its spoon into oil-exporting countries like Russia, Saudi Arabia, and even India, as they are key sellers in order to pursue its power regime and its plan to become the #1 power globally. Russia is also focusing on crude oil and fuel sales in Central Asia, specifically China, as G7 countries such as the United States, Germany, and European countries have placed sanctions due to the military decisions it has made in recent months. As China accelerates the purchase of cheap Russian oil, Saudi Arabia also wants to get into the business. To give you an idea, Chinese oil imports from Russia rose by 8% year-on-year to more than 1.9 million barrels of oil per day in February. According to China's General Administration of Customs, Saudi Arabia is locking in long-term demand in China by making refining and petrochemical project investments. This translates into billions invested in China, causing its economy to grow and move ever closer to capturing the top spot as the world's most powerful country, posing a challenge to the United States. Mohammed Al-Qahtani, Aramco's executive vice president of SAO, announced last Sunday that the company will invest more than $23 billion next month in opening offices and factories in China, significantly increasing the amount of production they send to this country. The agreements between China and Saudi Aramco are a clear sign that the Arabs no longer trust the United States and are determined to do business with the Communist Party of China. Another important goal of Saudi Aramco, the world's largest oil company, is to secure reliable crude oil supplies to China and thus guarantee its sales for years to come. One of Saudi Aramco's top executives revealed that this is their ultimate strategy, as they plan not to rely exclusively on US purchases or purchases from countries in Europe. The reality is that the giant countries of Asia are on their way to dominating the planet. By 2030, the Asian behemoths are waking up, and what they once planned is slowly becoming a reality. China's influence is reaching many more countries, including Africa. While some might not think Africa is worth investing in, its rapid population growth and growing economy make it an attractive region. China is making strategic investments in major countries in Africa that could become world powers in years to come, causing China to not only influence Asia, but Africa as well. Also, this is not seen in the news because governments do not want it to be known. China is also making fairly large investments in Latin American countries, causing these countries to become allies and turn their backs on the United States. This plan seems much more malevolent than we hear. In fact, they are planning to ally with India, Brazil, and other countries such as South Africa to confront the United States directly. What they want is for the US to stop influencing the world so negatively and take control again. Saudi exports to China have tripled in recent months, and this is already starting to worry the United States. It is a fact that a new bloc is forming against the United States. Russia, China, India, Brazil, and South Africa, also known as the BRICS countries, are beginning to plan how they will dethrone the dollar with their new super currency. Saudi Arabia remains one of the world's biggest emitters of greenhouse gases, and its commitment to oil is not helping the situation. China, on the other hand, has made great strides in renewable energy and emissions reduction. China may have seen the alliance with Saudi Arabia as a way to secure its oil supply in the short term, but it is also possible that they are looking for ways to influence Saudi Arabia's policy and get them to join the fight against climate change. On the other hand, the alliance between Saudi Arabia and China could have a major impact on the Gulf region's economy. If Saudi Arabia continues to strengthen its relationship with China, it is possible that other Gulf nations will do so as well. This could lead to increased reliance on China in the region and a decrease in US influence. In addition, the Saudi-China alliance could have a major impact on Saudi Arabia's domestic politics. If the country becomes increasingly dependent on China, this is likely to affect its relationship with other Gulf countries and with its own citizens. On the other hand, the alliance with China could help Saudi Arabia diversify its economy and move away from its dependence on oil. China is a huge and growing market, and this could help Saudi Arabia expand its export base and attract foreign investment. However, there is also a risk that Saudi Arabia could become too dependent on China and lose its economic independence. History has shown that dependence on a single source of revenue can be dangerous in the long run. In summary, the Saudi-China alliance has important economic, political, and security implications both regionally and globally. This situation needs to be closely monitored and its long-term consequences analyzed. One thing is clear: China's growing influence in the region and the world is changing the balance of power, and this is something that cannot be ignored. The United States and other Western countries should look for ways to adapt to these changes and find ways to maintain their influence in the region and the world. Ultimately, the stability and security of the region and the world depend on how countries manage these changes and how they work together to address the challenges of the 21st century. The alliance between Saudi Arabia and China is just one example of the changes taking place in the world and it is important to be prepared for what is to come. We will talk more about this in future videos. What do you think about the risk of the US taking a backseat to global power? Leave us a comment, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and like us, and we'll see you in future videos.